lymphatics and why that's important. So this is the lymphatic system, and basically what I want to hit upon is just how does the lymphatic system, what's the role in the body. The world itself is not always kind to the body, and I like that's how the lecture kind of starts off. We get a number of accidental bumps, cuts, scrapes. Toxins in the environment can get exposed to our skin, chemicals, other irritating substances, UV radiation. All of those substances can lead to problems that want to damage our internal structure of our body. We also are exposed to a variety of viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites, all of which not only can survive inside of our body, but some of them can cause a significant degree of harm to us as well. So pathogens or disease-causing microorganisms are responsible for a number of human diseases. They attack the body in a number of different ways. Viruses can spend a lot of their time hiding on cells. Herpes simplex virus, for example, can sit dormantly on a nerve and periodically re-exacerbate, causing disease or illness. Bacterial infections can multiply in significant quantities in interstitial spaces, in the fluid cavities in our body. Eventually can secrete toxins that can cause damage, can secrete enzymes and other toxic substances that can destroy tissue and lead to major diseases. There are many organs inside the lymphatic system. There is an ongoing role that it plays as far as providing a mechanism by which we can fight off the majority of these microorganisms. The lymphatic system includes tissue organs responsible for defending the body against environmental hazards and those threats of pathogens. Lymphocytes, the primary cells in the lymphatic system, vital to the ability to resist or overcome infections. Lymphocytes respond to the presence of invading pathogens such as bacteria or viruses or any other abnormal cell. And in responding to those, it can also fight off and ward off foreign proteins that these substances may make, such as toxins that are released from many bacteria. The attempts to eliminate the threats may render it harmless or in combination of physical and chemical attacks. Sometimes we neutralize, our immune system will basically just neutralize or wall off foreign particles that the body can't completely destroy, but at least it can build a covering around these invading organisms to hopefully prevent them from causing disease. Lymphocytes are said to provide specific defense known as an immune response, the ability to resist infection and disease through the activation of specific defenses constitute immunity. A physiological system that includes only lymphatic system but only components of the integumentary system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, digestive system, and other systems. So recognize the lymphatic system. As we said about all of the other systems, there is a dependency on the other systems for the lymphatic system to be able to carry out its function. Now, as you have seen in the circulatory system, both arterial and venous system, there are also lymphatic vessels, another type of circulatory system that exists in the body. I mentioned earlier as a part of the review, there are nodes as a part of this lymphatic system. Nodes are areas that work as little filters inside this lymphatic system to help trap foreign invaders. There are nodes that are located in the cervical region, the cervical lymph nodes, in the axillary region under the armpits, the axillary nodes. Most of the chest structures, including the breast and thoracic structures, will drain through the axillary nodes. The upper extremities drain through the axillary nodes. Also, there are nodes along the mediastinum in the center of the chest. Lymph nodes that extend along the surfaces of the blood vessels, particularly the aorta and the inferior vena cava as it traces its course through the abdomen. There are lymph nodes in the inguinal regions of the bodies, lymph nodes along the arms, also along the legs as well. These are all important structures, and the vessels themselves, the lymph vessels themselves, help move the fluid through. Lymph fluid resembles plasma. There is a network of lymphatic vessels. There is an array of lymphatic tissue or lymphoid organs throughout the body. I mentioned already about the lymph nodes, but other organs will include the thymus gland, the spleen, are also associated organs in the lymphatic system. As you can see, and what I was pointing out earlier, were as we see the blood vessels, arteries and veins. There are also lymphatic vessels. There are also a part of that network making up the neurovascular bundle. The only thing that's left out of this photograph would be the nerves, because the nerves also course along with the arteries, the veins, and the lymphatic vessels. Lymphatic vessels carry lymph fluid to other systems or other portions of the body as well. The smallest lymph vessels are called lymphatic capillaries. Lymphatic capillaries are a woven inner network that we see coursing in and out and along with and adjacent to the capillaries of the blood vessels. They move fluid in and out of vessels. The net flow of interstitial fluid and lymph. The movement of fluid from plasma through interstitial fluid in the lymphatic system. Lymphatic capillaries are present in almost every tissue structure, so just as we see blood vessels, we also see lymphatic vessels. Prominent lymphatic capillaries in the small intestines are referred to as lacteals. When Dr. Sloan goes over the digestive system with you, he will talk more about lacteals, but these are the lymphatic vessels in the small intestines. I almost made that a test question, then decided not to. Absence of lymphatics. Lymphatic vessels are absent in areas that lack blood supply. This would be in areas such as the cornea of the eye. Remember, the eye, too many tissue structures in front of the retina would cause an opaqueness, so you wouldn't be able to see from the eye. So we don't see lymph vessels in the eye. The bone marrow and the central nervous system also lack lymphatic vessels. And again, this is just an illustration out of your textbook that shows vein, artery, and lymphatic vessels. So when you have to do surgery on an artery, or you have to harvest a vein, let's say you want to take a vein from your leg and use it in your heart for coronary artery disease to do a bypass, also recognize that, make me remember something, also recognize that the vessels here are interrelated, and so if you do surgery on the vein, then you most likely will destroy the lymphatic vessel because they're tissue thin. It doesn't take much to disrupt the blood vessels of the lymphatic system. I didn't put a coronary artery on that lab test. I got to put a coronary artery on the lab test. Wow. People on the webcast will hear this, see, because I'm talking. So because we went over coronary arteries. I got to put a coronary artery on there. Okay, I'm sorry, I digressed there. Lymphatic valves. As there are valves in the veins, there are valves in the lymphatic vessels. One-way valves that allow fluid to move in one direction. When the valves break open, the valvular flow, the lymphatic vessels will allow blood to flow in the wrong direction. So when you damage lymphatic vessels, you typically damage the valves. The valves typically prevent backflow of lymph within the lymph vessels, especially those in the limbs. Pressure within the lymphatic system are minimal, and the valves are essentially maintaining normal lymph flow toward the thoracic cavity. Characteristics of lymphatics: typically the fluid itself is clear in its appearance. As you can see on the illustrations that are given in your book, lymphatic vessels are typically always either a yellowish, greenish color, arteries are always red, and veins are always blue. But as you recognize, the colors may change a bit, but when you look at lymph vessels, typically it's an amber color. It may be golden in appearance, maybe a little bit just clear and opaque. It just depends on the characteristics of the lymph fluid. In general, a tissue which contains many lymphatic vessels, especially more than veins, typically the lymphatic vessels would be smaller. There are superficial lymphatics, there are deep lymphatics. There are also superficial lymphatics located in the subcutaneous tissue and the deep skin tissues. We also see lymphatics running along the respiratory, urinary, reproductive tract, areolar tissue, serous membranes lining the pleural and pericardial and peritoneal cavities. I will mention the axillary nodes in breast tissue as it talks about areolar tissue. As you may know, in individuals who suffer from breast cancer, typically in that procedure where a mass may be removed or either a mastectomy may be performed, one of the other parts of the procedure is to take away the axillary nodes and to see if cancer has spread into the axillary nodes. That's done as a part of staging to see if the cancer is localized or where it's spread. Typically, if cancer spreads, it's going to spread through the lymphatic system. Typically, the cancer cells will be filtered out in the lymph nodes. So it's important to recognize that. Now, breast cancer is not the only cancer that you check regional lymph nodes. GI cancers, intestinal cancers also have lymph nodes along the aorta. These nodes are also harvested if a person is diagnosed with cancer. There are lymph nodes that are all along the mesentery areas of the abdominal cavity, and so those nodes are taken as well to identify whether or not a person has a cancer as well. There are deep lymphatics. Deep lymphatics, these are basically larger vessels. They run along the same course as the deep arteries and the deep veins. Now, the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct are important. I asked you to know this for the test. The thoracic duct collects lymph from the body inferior to the diaphragm and from the left side of the body superior to the diaphragm. So the entire left side of the body and everything superior to the diaphragm. So most of the fluid, most of the lymphatic fluid gets drained through the thoracic duct. So it's important structure. The smaller right lymphatic duct collects blood from the right side of the body superior to the diaphragm. Okay? So most of the lymphatic blood flow, and this illustration identifies this. As you can see, on the right side, the right thoracic duct drains the overwhelming majority of the body. Smaller portion of the body is drained from the right lymphatic duct. This is an illustration of actually how the body would appear, how the lymphatic vessels course along the vertebral column. Recognize, of course, that the aorta typically would lie over these structures, but it has to be removed so you can appreciate where this structure is lying. This is an actual gross picture demonstrating to you the thoracic aorta. Thoracic aorta will extend and go down further. There are also the lymphatic vessels that are located here. The cisternae chyli, which is a portion of the lymphatic vessel, I'll talk about in just a second. The diaphragm has been transected here for you to be able to fully appreciate that. You can have obstruction in the lymphatic channels. When you get obstruction in the lymphatic channels, typically fluid accumulates in the extremity. If you get an obstruction in the lymphatic channels that lead to the arm will swell, fluid will accumulate, significant amounts of interstitial fluid will begin to accumulate. If you get a blockage in the lymphatic vessels, the lower extremity, typically you get lower extremity edema. You can have benign lymphedema. Benign lymphedema is if you stand all day. Those of you who go into the nursing profession will stand a lot. Those of you who go into the teaching profession will stand a lot. And because of that, due to hydrostatic pressure, pressure accumulates in the blood vessels, in the veins. That fluid actually will migrate and also accumulate in the lymphatic vessels as well. When that occurs, there are pores in the lymphatic vessels that will basically open up. The fluid will leak out into the interstitial space, and you will accumulate a significant amount of edema. Now, benign lymphedema typically doesn't cause any problems. Dangerous lymphedema, this becomes when you have a constant risk of uncontrolled infection. The lymphatic system's not working at all. Typically, all the valves that prevent lymphatic vessels from flowing up have been destroyed. Fluid, interstitial fluid, and lymphatic fluid become stagnant. Toxins and pathogens will accumulate in the fluid. It will overwhelm the local defense system and cause significant problems. There are conditions where parasitic infections will attack the lymphatic system. There are little worms called Filariasis worms that actually can get in the lymphatic system and block the lymph ducts and leads to a condition called elephantitis. Your lower extremities just get huge and you basically can't walk. And some countries honor people who have elephantitis because their extremities are just so large due to lymphatic obstruction. We typically see it when individuals have a disease process such as coronary artery disease or peripheral artery disease where lymphatic vessels get destroyed when you harvest a vein. You harvest a vein you do for bypass surgery and you cause obstruction or damage to that tissue. So there's types of edema that are important: temporary lymphedema, chronic lymphedema, breast cancer, again, a radiation therapy. Radiation therapy can destroy the lymphatic vessels. The process of radiation causes scar tissue. Scar tissue will obstruct the lymphatic vessels and lead to this process. Filariasis is the condition that I was referring to, basically where a parasite or larva will get into the lymphatic system and destroy it, leading to a condition referred to as elephantitis. Treatment of chronic lymphedema, basically if you can treat the underlying problem, but recognize once you destroy the lymphatic vessels, that's it. Lymphatic vessels don't come back. Now, and finally, I just end off with these three major categories of lymphocytes. Three major types of lymphocytes are T lymphocytes, thymus-dependent, B lymphocytes produced in the bone marrow derived, and NK, natural killer cells. The T cells, approximately 80% of circulating lymphocytes, classified as T cells. T cells are cytotoxic cells which attack foreign particles that come into the body. Their attack commonly involves direct contact. There are helper T cells which stimulate the activation and function of T cells in the B cells. And then there are suppressor T cells which inhibit the activation and function of both T cells and B cells. B cells account for about 10 to 15% of circulating lymphocytes. When they are stimulated, B cells can differentiate into plasma cells, which are responsible for the production of and secretion of antibodies, soluble proteins also known as immunoglobulins. And then these proteins bind to specific chemical targets. These chemical targets, macromolecules that will stimulate the immune system, are referred to as antigens. That's one of your test questions. Antigens, these are large macromolecules, proteins that bind to specific chemical targets. These are called antigens. Most antigens are pathogens, foreign particles that invade our body. Parts or products of pathogens are foreign compounds. Most antigens are proteins, but some are lipids, polysaccharides, nucleic acids. They stimulate the antibiotic production in the body. Antibodies will bind to target antigens in a chain of events that leads to the destruction of the target organism. The function of B cells responsible for antibody-mediated immunity, which also is known as humoral or liquid immunity caused by antibodies that occur in body fluids. And then the natural killer cells, remaining 5 to 10% of circulating lymphocytes, are natural killer cells, also known as large granular lymphocytes. These lymphocytes attack foreign cells, normal cells infected with viruses, cancer cells that appear normal. There's continuous policing of the peripheral tissue. This is referred to as immunosurveillance. Okay? I'll stop there. I'll do the rest of the lecture. I'll also post that up on the media for you as well.